Okay, hello everybody. So today's Rambam is something. Today's Rambam is about something very scary. I don't know if we should even do it on video, but because Inu is watching, we're going to do it on video. It's about Ir Nidachas. Sometimes in Torah, Hashem takes from a bunch of separate people and makes it one congregation. Like when you're part of a minyan, you leave your self-identity and become part of the minyan. So too, there's a city in the negative sense called Ir Nidachas, where everyone they lose their personal identity and they become part of this city called Ir Nidachas. If the case of Ir Nidachas is the case of Ir Nidachas is when most people in the city serve idols. Now, this case is almost impossible. It says in the Talmud, never happened. But it's one of the laws of Torah that's what we're learning in the Rambam. If two people from the same city come and persuade most of the people in the city to serve idols.
Why did you get like the nations were living in Israel before they were all idol worshippers?
Right, they were all idol worshippers. So two people from the city come and they persuade everyone to serve idols. So if it is a city which is not Jerusalem, or it's not on the border of Israel, which we'll explain later. It says in the Talmud, there's a shift opinion that didn't happen. So then what happens is that they send Torah scholars to that city and they try to be chozer b'tshuva. They try to get everybody in the city to do tshuva. If they still don't do tshuva, then all the Jews come and conquer the city, and they make a court in the city. See if majority actually serve idols. They take them all to the temple where there's 71 judges, and they have the death penalty with the sword of all the people in the city that serve. No, only Jews that served idols. So this case of Ir Nidachas is so complicated because you have to have two people from that city, has to be from the same tribe. It can't be too big of a city, which means it can't be most of a tribe. It can't be too little of a city. The average city, and they have to have witnesses for each person in the city, which is majority, that they serve the idols. So we're soon going to learn about Ari Miklat, the cities that someone by accident kills someone, he goes to hide in Ari Miklat. Those cities also can become Ir Nidachas. It says the Ir Nidachas, the two people that come and persuade the city to serve idols, have to tell the people in the city in Lashon Rambam, which means that they say, "Let's go." They can't talk Lashon Yachid in order to make this din of Ir Nidachas. So again, there's many details, and therefore it's almost impossible. It has to be in the court and based on Mikdash, there's 71 judges. It has to be two people. They have to get most of the people in the city. But now, when everyone in the city becomes part of Ir Nidachas, happens to be that their death penalty goes lower, because the worst death penalty is skila, stoning. Second is seifa, burning, which is through drinking hot lead. The next one is hareg, which is through sword, and then chenek is the easiest, which is choking. So because they all become a new identity, Ir Nidachas, they don't have a skill, which is the regular punishment for someone that serves idols, like we said before, but it's chenek, it's through choking. If they do tshuva, this is the only mitzvah in the whole Torah that the dayan, the beis din, looks at a person's heart. All other mitzvahs, the guy could do tshuva, could cry about his averes all day. If the law says he gets malchus, he gets skila, whatever it is, we don't care what he does. He does tshuva. He gets elam haba, he gets Gan Eden, but not this world. We don't care. It says ein l'dayan ela mashin nevrais. But in this case, because it's it's about considering the city as a whole. Right, but in the case of Ir Nidachas is the only exception. That if the people do tshuva, then they don't have the din of Ir Nidachas. So in the case of Ir Nidachas, if there is such a case, then they take everything in the city, bring it together into the marketplace, and they burn out the whole city. And it's also it's a sin to have pleasure from any object that was left in the city. In the Torah, right? Now, if there's some examples that we don't say that we don't burn it. For example, if somebody had a partner that lived in the Ir Nidachas and they lived outside of the Ir Nidachas. So then if they have a piece of bread, so you put it in half of it can be burnt, half of it doesn't. But if it's an animal, and in an animal everything sucks from the other, every limb gets from the other limb. That's why all Jews are connected, because every Jew gets, we're all one body, right? So in one body you can't split it in half. So that you have to burn.
But land you can give.
Land you can't rebuild it in a city, but you can plant it like a farm, but you can't rebuild it ever again. Now, this is where it comes the concept of I was saying if something's on the border. If there's a city on the border, we don't make it Irani Dachas. The reason is because it's very important that on the border of Israel, on the border of any Jewish state, even if it's in Africa, there has to be a strong border. And therefore it says in the halacha that on Shabbos, if people come and trying to mess with the Jewish border, even if they're coming to steal some hay, you go out with ammunition on Shabbos, even though it's going against the laws of Shabbos, because the Jewish border is very, in the eyes of the Torah, the Jewish border is very, very, very important to keep it. Yes, that's the point. So the point is that the way the Torah looks at it is that the border, if the border is weak, then the whole country is weak. So if it's the middle of the country, you have a burnt down city, that's one thing. But if you're talking about something on the border, then we're very, very careful. We're focused to make sure the border, and that's why the rabbi used to say regarding giving away land, that we're talking about land which is on the border. We're not talking about land we're not talking about Tel Aviv. We're talking about Gaza, which is on the border, right? So there's a halacha. Yes. It doesn't make a difference. That's the point. It says in Shulchan Aruch, in general, you can't give away land of Jews if it is dangerous, right? So now, if you're giving away land on the border, like we see in Gaza, and it's easier for people to smuggle from Egypt bombs into Gaza. If Gaza would have been in middle of Tel Aviv, it would have been in the middle of Bnei Brak, how would they get the smuggle the bombs inside from Egypt? Right? When something's on the border, it's even more important to make sure to guard the border. Now, let's say there is a caravan going from place to place, and they stop by in this Irani Dachas. So what is the halacha? The halacha is if they stay there for 30 days, they're considered part of the city. If they're not considered part of the city, then they are judged like people that are not part of the city. Which in that case you don't destroy their belongings, because this is the only case in all the laws in the laws of Torah that we take away the belongings and burn it. Usually, if the guy has belongings, you punish him. You give it to his kids or his family. What happens with fruits that grow in the Irani Dachas? Fruits that grow in the Irani Dachas is mutter, because anything that is like a car, a tree, a table, anything that's separate from the ground.
You said you can do a farm, so
you can do a farm, but not only you can do a farm, but the trees and the apples which grew in the Irani Dachas before you planted, you could eat those trees, because it's not considered belongings of the people, it's considered part of the ground. However, in the case of someone owned a cow, that already is a different story. Now, what happens if somebody has a carbon for the mizbeach and they're Irani Dachas? So it doesn't belong to anybody, it belongs to Hashem. So then we, in that case, we don't burn it with everything else, we bury it like any other holy object. Also, Meiser Sheni. We're going to learn later about Meiser Sheni and other holy objects like the Torah scroll. All those things, it belong to Irani Dachas, so you don't burn it. You can't burn the Torah, God forbid. We bury it. Whoever would make, again, this is never happened, but if this would have happened, maybe there's an opinion that actually happened. Whoever makes a din, whoever destroys the Irani Dachas, he's bringing a sacrifice to Hashem as if he's bringing an oila. We're going to learn later about this different levels of sacrifices. There's a shlamim, which you bring half the animal to the mizbeach as a carbon. Then there's oila, which you bring the whole animal. And this is you're causing Hashem to forgive the Jews for this great sin of idol worship.
I think that's what the Yahweh did in
Carmel. In Carmel, he didn't kill the city. It was the Baal. Ami is speaking about the story that Eliyahu killed 250 prophets of the Baal. What we're going to learn later, a prophet of idols of idol worship is a different din. He's also is chenek. Okay, so now we're moving on to the next case, today's parak, regarding someone which persuades another Jew to serve idols. This is the easiest way, so to speak, how to get the death penalty in the Jewish court. Because in every other case, you have to get warned, and you have to say, "I know I'm doing this," and there's a lot of details which are almost impossible to get a death penalty. But in the case of a mason, someone which is convincing other people to serve Avodah Zarah, we're very, very strict. And there's many, many mitzvahs not to love. You can't love him. It says you have to love every Jew. Besides someone that's trying to convince you to serve Avodah Zarah, you have to care about the life of every Jew. Besides this Jew, you have to
And it says your mother,
even any person, even if it's part of your family, you love him so much. And it says that you have to tell the court. You can't be quiet. You cannot tell the court. You have to go tell the court and just say what he did. Now, the guy that convinces the person doesn't even need to serve idols. He could be, I'm a tzaddik, I'm telling you to do it. Let's say he tells one person, so you have to have two witnesses. Remember we said in the Jewish court, we only trust two witnesses.
Yeah.
So what does he do? The guy's smart. He's not going to say in front of two people, serve idols. What does he do? He gets this guy into a dark place. He says, tell me, what should I do? And he hides the people, the two witnesses in the dark. He doesn't see. They see him, he doesn't see them. And then he says, and then the halacha is, he should tell him, 1 second, I should leave Hashem for these idols? So if the guy says, you know what, I changed my mind, don't do it, then we don't hurt him. But if he tells him, no, yes, we should go serve idols. So these two people hiding, jump out of their hiding place, grab him, and take him to the Beis Din. This is the only avera, only sin, which we hide witnesses.
And you don't have to warn him.
You don't have to warn him. The only sin you don't have to warn, you don't have to, because this is such a great sin, he's not doing the sin. He's making somebody else do the sin. Because he's making someone else do the sin, that is the worst sin. The worst sin is not when you do a sin. The worst sin, when Hashem gets the most upset, is when you make someone else do a sin.
So the Gemara said the most sin in the Torah is when the person is
Yes, like I'm saying, the worst sin is making a general crowd do a sin. But even if someone is making one person do a sin, it's the worst sin possible. What happens if somebody walks in the show, this happens even these days, and he tells everyone bow down to me, I am Hashem. There's people today that do it. There's rappers that do these things. So now they're joking usually, but let's say somebody's serious. So if nobody served him, it's not considered a sin. He's considered a meshugana. But if he goes into the show and says everyone serve somebody else or serve a rock, a tree, whatever it is, then he's considered a mason, someone which is this very bad sin of convincing other people to serve idols. A prophet which comes to a crowd of people and says, this star told me this and this. Right? Now we have these people every day, or for sure in the olden days, there were many prophets that were false prophets that come and say that the sun told them this, the moon told them this. So this person, you can't listen. It's an avera, it's a sin to listen to anything he has to say. And he is, in a certain case, he has a death penalty of being choked. You can't argue with him. You can't even talk to him.
You didn't tell him like words, but by the.
Oh, that's fine. He has to have a prophecy. What happens if he says, you know what? You don't believe me? I'll make a miracle. I'll make the wall fall down, whatever the miracle is. We don't listen to him. We don't care what he has to say. Even if he comes and says, you know what? This mitzvah, let's change it a little bit. Or this halacha, this is the halacha. You don't listen to him. You do whatever miracles. Because you only care what it says in the Torah. The only purpose of a Navi, of a prophet, the Jewish prophet, like we said before, is to inspire us to do the mitzvahs. Or maybe to tell us how to do business. But he cannot change any mitzvah. And that's why all these new religions that came and said, oh, Judaism has changed. It's against the whole Torah. The Torah tells us in the Torah, this Torah will never change. And therefore, no person can ever change the Torah. Can't say that this mitzvah was for the olden days, or it's a different interpretation. It says in the Talmud, even a rabbi, which says, I want to prove you that halacha is like me. And he makes the roof fall down, the wall fall down. We don't believe it. because we have to look in the Torah and listen to the Torah. Prophecies cannot change the Torah.
What about Yom Kippur? When Mashiach comes, there will be no Yom Kippur.
Not for the beginning of Mashiach. We'll talk about it from that. Whoever is scared of a prophet that is a false prophet, even if he's doing miracles, it's a sin. You can't be scared of him. You can't even consider his miracles as, you should look at it right away as witchcraft. It shouldn't mean anything to you. You have to be very careful, and this is practical for today, never to make a non-Jew swear in his belief. If it's not Jew, swear means if you want to swear in the Jewish court, so you hold the Torah and you swear in the name of Hashem that I don't owe you money, that you owe me money. So you can't do this with a non-Jew, because he's going to swear in the name of his idol or his religion, and you can't cause a non-Jew to swear in something that's something. If it's Muslim, it's okay. Yes, but so Muslims don't have a problem regarding the God. They believe in one Hashem. Their only problem is that they believe in a false prophet. That's fine for a Muslim. For a Jew, you can't believe in a false prophet, which means you can't even give them any respect. In your mind, of course, you don't want to embarrass them because you don't want to mess with these people, right? But still, in your heart, you can't respect them. They're just like everybody else. They made up their prophecy, because a prophecy that's going against what we saw on Mount Sinai, Hashem giving us any prophecy that goes against it is totally false. Everyone have a good night. And of course, this is talking about only in the olden days. And these days, Judaism doesn't hurt anybody. Our mission is to inspire people, even if they're in the lowest levels. We don't blame them, because most people have the wrong education. Unfortunately, today, there's very few people who have a good education. Therefore, our job in this world is to inspire people to learn Torah, do mitzvahs, and just like the worst sin in the Torah, what is it? To make someone do something bad. Not you should do something bad, you make someone else do something. Same to the opposite. Our mission is that it should be exactly the opposite. The greatest mitzvah is not that you should do a mitzvah, that you should be a tzaddik, but you should inspire somebody else to be a tzaddik, especially somebody which is in a city of Yarni Dachas, a city in which everyone serves idols, a city in which everybody they don't care about Hashem, they care about going, they do go against Hashem. Going to that city, be that Talmid Chacham that says in today's Rambam, inspiring them. Exactly. And inspiring them to connect to Hashem, that's a mission that will be Mashiach. Have a good night.
Mashiach now, Mashiach.
Amalekim